Cheap or expensive watercolour brushes? Will they work the same? Let's find out. Now, I love it when companies send me brushes and materials to try out, I really do. So Pan Arts Global in India sent me all of these brushes and some paper as well to have a play with. And I'm going to try all these out on camera. Today, what I'm going to work on are the two very large mop brushes. So one is synthetic and one is squirrel hair. But there's a massive difference in price as well. So this one, they retail about £11 or maybe $15 something like that at the time of this recording. And this one retails, believe it or not, at £120 or thereabouts compared to say $164 again at the time of this recording. So will the cheap one work just as well as a more expensive one? So synthetic compared to, well, squirrel hair. So let's go ahead and do some testing. Now, the first brush we'll look at is this one here, and this is the synthetic mop, and it's a series, just down there, 1181, a series round mop 18. Now, they do other sizes, of this one as well. One mop brush can do what it may take many other brushes to do, okay, extremely soft squirrel filaments, almost like natural squirrel hair, which is what this one is here. Okay, I'll show you that one in a bit. And apparently it's got a fine point for detail working. We'll find that out very shortly. And perfect for soft, expressive strokes. So let's have a quick look inside and see what this is like. Okay, let's de-stick it first of all. Oh dear, that's quite sticky, aren't they? That's the only thing with that, I suppose. So you've got to try and get all this off, but that's okay. It does just peel off, as you can see there. So that's not too bad, because you tend to worry about it pulling the paint off. Now these, as I mentioned, are made in India, and it's a round pointed Pan Arts Series 1181 Premium Mop. Oh, look at that. So when you look at the point of this one here, it's very, very pointy. So we'll see how that one works in a minute. However, this is actually quite hard at the moment, because when they transport it, they tend to soak the bristles or the hairs, depending on what it is, within like a water-soluble glue. So all that means is that it's going to stay in good shape all the way to your house. So what I need to do is give that a rinse out. I've got dirty and clean water here, by the way. So give it a rinse out first. I'll tell you what, I'll go in the dirty water first of all, and that's because I just want to rinse that glue out. So give a really good rinse out first before you use any brushes. And never leave your brushes standing tip first in a pot, whatever you do, because that'll just ruin them straight away. So that should have sufficiently washed that glue out of the bristles now. And if I just dry that on some kitchen roll, just by dragging it through, okay, I'll give it a quick shapen up, and we'll see what that one's like there now. Well, it's got a good point on it, I must admit. Let's give it a try. Now the cheaper one, which is the Series 1181 by Pan Arts, the Premium Mop Brush, there you go. It's got quite a chunky handle on that, hasn't it? When you compare that to my normal kind of size 28, and it must be different sizing that they have on there. This is one by Winsor & Newton, the Galleria one, which is that one there. Let's try and get it on camera. And you can see the difference in size there, look at that. So this is a short handle one, the new one, compared to the ones I would normally use. So it's getting used to a shorter handle as well. To be honest with you, I've got quite large hands. That feels quite comfortable in my hand, with it does being a left-handed person as well. So it feels very, very comfortable there. So it's, even though it's chunky, I do like that. It's quite nice. And also the metal ferrule, I've just noticed as well, unlike some of the ones I've already got, not by this company though, you find it's tapered. So right around the edge there, lot, it's got a very tapered kind of cut in. So it kind of curves in as it goes towards the filaments. Now this is supposed to mimic squirrel hair, which is the idea behind this. So even though it's synthetic. And I know that a lot of people now are turning more towards the synthetic brushes than they are with the natural hair brushes like sable or squirrel or mixture of ox hair and all sorts of varieties out there as well. So let's give this one a try and see how well this works, shall we? And find out how well it kind of performs under a little bit of testing. So get some paint, give this a try. And I'm going to load this first of all to get some more water in my palette first, okay? Just need a bit more colour in there to test these, because these are quite large brushes. Steady pull. Maybe put that one in that one then. And load it best I can. A bit difficult with my kind of smaller wells here. Remember, I tend to work with detail brushes normally. In fact, my detail brush, out of interest, is also synthetic, which is that one there. Look at the difference in size. I know. dinky, isn't it? Very, very dinky. So, okay, let's have a quick look. So we'll give this one a try. Let's try painting a thin line first. This is fully loaded, or just about anyway. As loaded as I can get it on my mixing palette. So that's a thin line. It's not bad. Compared to the size of the brush. It's not bad at all actually, because it's still got quite a reasonable tip on there as well. Which is fairly impressive actually. Compared to the ones I've used in the past of this kind of size. And you find the tip is, well, let's just say that it doesn't go to a point. Now let's just see about the snapping on this. And does it snap back to a point when I come back off the stroke? So come nice and fine. And you can see on there, look, it's still got a nice point on the brush, hasn't it? And that's what I'm looking for, the kind of snap rate within a brush. So we got the fin, nearly, got the fin, like that, and apply the pressure, go thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker, keep going, keep going, keep going, and then lay off the pressure until you get nice and thin again. Now I can see with this one, so it's all breaking apart on the upward stroke as it's coming away from the paper. So we'll find out the other one works, a more expensive one, compared to this one in the same way shortly. But looking at the brush, it's still got that very fine tip on it as well, hasn't it? So again, quite impressive. And you can see that when you start to have less paint on the brush, and you're thinking about reloading, that's when you want to start looking at getting the finer details. Still got quite a lot of paint on this actually. I think the water holding properties of this is quite good. As you can see, it's still holding the water on there. It's still producing the very thick lines and the thin lines as I'm working through this. Okay, so yeah, quite impressed with that one so far. And snap back. Not too bad. So it's got quite a good spring to that as well, hasn't it? Which is quite nice. So far, this brush seems to work quite well. Now, I normally use large brushes like this for large washes. So when I'm working on, say, I don't know, a wildlife portrait of a wolf or something like that, then if I do a background on there, I would use a brush of this sort of size to go all the background washes first. So for that, the usual reason I would use something like this, not more for the kind of detail work like this. Okay, so I must admit though, I'm quite impressed by the synthetic version. Now I know that many artists do use stands, don't they, for the watercolour brushes. So let's say, for example, within my water pot, which is this one here, dirty, clean, okay. The biggest hole is that one there, and there's no way that's going to go in there. So it doesn't fit in anything like that, because it's quite a stumpy brush on this one. It's quite a stumpy wooden handle. So that's the only thing, is storing it. I have a brush tree which I use as well. I'll put a little photograph up in the corner there for you, which I tend to use, which is homemade. And even with that, I've just tried that off camera and it won't fit. So the only issue you'll have for something like this is trying to store it because of the chunky end on there. So how are we going to store that away? I like to store my brushes upright, so therefore any water will drain up from inside the ferrule out from the tip of the bristles to the surface, just kind of drip out, rather than damage it by draining into the wood. So remember that when you're working with a brush. Now looking at this, I've tried this, I've washed it out again, and you can see the tip is starting to splay apart a little bit, even though it's nice and damp still. So it should still hold its point, but the point isn't that pointed now. So it's got a little bit of a gap there. So it depends how precise you want to be and how kind of finicky you want to be with the details on there. But I mean, generally as a wash brush, it seems to work really well. But I think what we need to do now is compare this one to the more expensive one worth about £120. I know it's a lot of money, isn't it? Let's give it a try. Okay, now looking at this one apparently has got densified wood. Densified wood, what on earth's that? All it simply is that the handle is really, really solid. So it's not like any other brush. I'll get another brush here a minute. Where, hear that? Compared to, that's really, really hard. So the idea behind densified wood is impregnated with resin to a high pressure treatment, okay? And that basically increases the density and the strength of the actual handle, so it's really, really strong. The handle is smooth. Look at that tapered feel to that. It's a lovely handle, isn't it? And apparently each one is a little bit unique because of the way that the patterns work within the woodwork. But that is lovely to hold because you've got this kind of dip which goes into the curve of your hand. Okay, Let's wash these bristles out and give it a try, shall we, and see what that looks like. Look at that ferrule look, black. I know, smart, isn't it? Really is. Okay, now just wash this one out. Now, it took me a good 5 minutes or so to wash it out because the glue they use within there was really rock solid within the bristles there. So it took a bit of cleaning, I must admit. It's not the kind of thing you can leave soaking kind of point downwards with a jar of warm water, is it? Not really. So you've got to be careful with that, with anything like that. So all I've basically done is kind of very lightly rub these kind of hairs through some warm water underneath a tap. Just gently, as I say, for about 5 minutes, and that got all the glue out of there. But yeah, it does take a bit of getting out, it really does. So, first of all, as I mentioned, the comfort is really nice. The ferrule's lovely, nice and black as you can see. And the design is beautiful, it really is, isn't it? Look at that. Isn't that nice? Ooh, great. Let's give it a try. So we're going to go for the red. As you can see, all the bristles are going to part here, so I'm going to have to get some more water in there. A bit more, Paul. There you go, try that. So they've all kind of separated now. I've never used a squirrel hair brush before, I'll be honest with you. So this is all new to me as well. So if it's new to you, you're not the only one. Now I've used most, look at that, I've used most of the paint on that. So it's soaked up just about everything nearly in there. Quite a lot has been soaked up from that brush. So we'll give this a try. So that's definitely fully loaded, isn't it? And we'll see how well it performs. Now I've lost the tip on there, it's gone. So where's the tip gone? Interesting. So first of all, let's start off, I can't get fine at the moment, by doing a very heavy application of paint, then come off that pressure. Oh. Let's try a different colour, shall we? Try that one. Try a bit of purple in there instead. So apply the paint quite heavily, nice and hard. Come off the pressure and then see how fine that tip will go. But when you compare that to the synthetic brush, this isn't performing nearly as well, is it? Maybe I'm using it wrong, maybe I've washed it out wrong, but I don't think so. You know, it's obviously just do it very carefully when you wash it underneath a tap. But I'm not impressed so far by this very expensive brush. Let's get a little bit more paint, we'll try again. So it may need a little bit of time to kind of work in. Maybe there's still a little bit of glue within the hairs on there, I've got no idea. But it's not performing the way I expected it to perform when I'm doing all this lot. You can see, look at the broken edges on that. And I'm trying to be just as careful as I was with the other brush. It's nowhere near as smooth as that. I mean, so far, you know, for the extra £109 for this, it's not something I would personally go for. The actual look and feel of it, these hairs are so soft. They really are. They're deliciously soft, they really are, you know, when you work on something like this. And you can see it's getting better. It's getting better. It's starting to kind of form more of a point now. I just think that with a brush like this, it might take a little bit of working when it's new and trying to get it to work properly. It's soaking up out of there, look at that. So the quality of the bristles are really, really nice, I must admit. So if I'm working on a large wash, this would probably be my preferred brush in that sense, because it's going to be so smooth to apply colour to the paper like so. It really will. Look how well that goes on and how quick it goes on as well. Very nice indeed. Okay, but as I mentioned, when you're working on something like this for the spring kind of rate on a brush, so how well it springs back to shape when you come off. It does spring back to shape, but I still can't get that fine detail I've been trying to achieve, which I did with the other brush. Still can't achieve that, because as I start lifting off, you can see the brush bends inwards like that, doesn't it? See that? So it's all kind of curved over. And that, to me, doesn't work quite as well as the synthetic. I prefer the spring rate, if you wish, of the synthetic brush compared to the more expensive brush like this one here. So the look, as you can see, is a beautiful brush. The feel of it is amazing, it really is. Nice and light, not too heavy in your hand. And all this curvature, as I mentioned, kind of fits your hand perfectly when you're working with it, it really does. And with a smooth, glossy feel to the wooden handle and its unique look to it as well. Yeah, it's definitely a classy brush. But if you want to achieve details, then I would personally go for this one here. Alright? Or if you want to achieve more kind of even washes, then this one definitely stands out in the crowd. It really does. And you have to remember as well, with brushes like this, it's been designed to hold it there. I'm used to holding a detail brush that far, holding onto the ferrule itself. So when you're working on something like this, you've got to hold the brush quite far away, which gives you a much looser kind of feel when you're applying the paint to the paper. So it depends exactly how you use the brush as well, whether you'll get on with something like this compared to something like this. My preference, as I mentioned, between the two, I'd still go for the synthetic version compared to the more expensive version. Not just because of the price difference, but also because of the way that the synthetic brush works, and I do prefer the detail you can do with this one compared to this one. So out of these two, which one would you go for to paint your pictures with? Would you go for the more expensive squirrel hair brush with a lovely, smooth, kind of soft handle, nice to hold? Or would you go for the synthetic version, which is just as well, you can hold that no problem at all, but you get more detailed strokes with? Which would you choose? Put a comment down below and let me know. Would you pay all that money out for one like this? Or would you simply do what I do and go for the cheaper one? But how about making your own Technique brushes for around 50 pence? Head to the video to the right to learn how.